Welcome to another edition of Hardcore Wrestling 101, and we are back at it again. I am joined, as it's just about a always thing for me anymore, by Hardcore Christopher.
What is up, Hardcore Nation? It's Hardcore Christopher here, and are you ready to talk about some wrestling? One is bigger than AEW itself.
Yeah.
So I go back to you.
I am thinking about trying to get together about once a week and do maybe even Saturday mornings before I go to work at 1:30.
Okay.
Come and talk with you around 12-ish,
Okay.
12:30-ish, and do what we're going to start titling this week's review.
Okay.
Or something in that neighborhood. I would have to think of it. Or the week that was in professional wrestling or something. I'm trying to make sure I'm not copyrighting any other YouTube channel. I don't think there is anything called the week that was pro wrestling.
Alright.
And if I do and someone catches me on it, I will change the name because I'm not trying to copyright nobody.
Alright.
So let's start with the lesser events and work our way to the big main event.
Okay.
Let's go. AEW finally dropping the Trios Championships.
Okay, this has been a long time coming. This was probably a title that they had at the start. Took us forever to get to this point. But we'll see what happens now if they can just get rid of the international title or whatever they call it.
The All Atlantis Championship?
Yes, that's a joke.
Well, it's not needed for one. So, we both have said who we said is going to win. So now I want it on record.
You want me to say it in front of the millions of people that watch the internet?
I want it on record. That way we cannot say
Omega Bucks.
Omega Bucks. I still say that throughout they going, but I could see the William Regal group get it. So, but I am going to say Omega Bucks. See how long I am. Okay. Death Before Dishonor.
You just want to talk about Briscoes and FDR? Or?
We need to talk about that show. I would say start with Claudio at least, and then FTR for sure.
I think everybody saw Claudio winning that belt.
Yeah.
Jonathan Gresham, from what we both understand, wasn't very happy with that. With that match.
Here's the thing, and this is something that Tony has done even with AEW.
So much so that Mr. Gresham did ask for his release.
That has not been granted as of yet, but just because your match is not the main event doesn't mean it's not main event quality. Honestly, 90% of that call could have been classified as a main event.
Yes.
It was that good of a show. But back to what my thing I was going to touch on. Since the inception of AEW, Tony Khan and everyone involved has always focused a lot on tag team wrestling. So I cannot agree with Jonathan on this, saying that the world title should have been the main event. The main event was, I honestly feel, what needed to be the main event. 2 out of 3 falls tag team war that, my God, was that brutal.
While I will agree, there's an argument to be made that there's always an argument to be made that the main championship should go on last.
Well, there was a men's championship as far as tag team wrestling is concerned.
Not talking about that. I'm talking about.
I'm not talking about singles. I'm not talking tag. I'm talking about wrestling in general. It was a world championship.
Yes.
I mean, the Pure Championship is considered a world championship. If it were called for it, that could have been considered the main event that night.
True.
However, that match wasn't. And honestly, the world title and the tag world championships, which one had the bigger build? Which one did we know about more than a week in advance?
FTR Briscoe.
Exactly. Which one was high demand for a rematch since their first encounter?
FTR Briscoe.
Why did they go 2 and 3 falls? So we would know. I honestly thought
FTR, it was a brutal match, yes, but FTR ended up winning.
I was surprised about that by a little bit, being that the Briscoes were just announced as signing a multi-year exclusive contract with Ring of Honor. I expected them to walk out as a champion. I really did. And FTR was the home club because technically, even though we was in Briscoe's backyard of being a Ring of Honor show, that Ring of Honor crowd is technically an AEW crowd. So it's going to take all the original Ring of Honor people time to get over with this crowd. The Briscoes honestly were booed as part of this match.
True.
So we
also had Lethal and...
Hang on, we had 2 title changes. The 6-man tag titles was, I believe, the teaser for the trios. I think that's why them belts.
I still don't like the name trios. They should be called six-man belts.
I like the name trios because it gives it a different twist.
You only have trios matches in Mexico.
And that's why I like it. We have had several companies in the U.S. that has used the name 6-man tag.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
I honestly like the name trios because it gives it a different twist.
But nobody in the States knows what a trios match is.
Your diehard wrestling fans are going to know what especially now, has AEW ever called a 6-man match a 6-man match?
No, but it should. There are 6 men involved.
I like the trio version. I really do. This is probably going to be one that we agree to disagree opinion.
Oh no, I agree that. I agree that.
And I told you, I think we had this conversation on when they were going to drop him about a year ago, and we had this conversation. Well, you said it should be called 6-man.
Because there are 6 men involved in the match.
I know, but the thing is, they have always called their matches trios. They've had a division since the get-go with nothing to fight for.
They also had a hardcore division that the hardcore division had nothing to fight for.
I can't argue with that one either, can I? Okay, if you want a hardcore division, get rid of the All Atlantis Championship and just rename it the hardcore title.
I don't even know what Tony was thinking at the All.
Oh, I know what he was thinking. And the problem is, sometimes when you think on the fly like that...
He's a mark. He is a Mark Booker.
Well, here's the thing. If you remember, when they were booking for Forbidden Door, he lost a lot of his main event players.
Oh, which, by the way, since we talk about AEW, Tony put out a tweet saying that he would like to thank everyone because he is the longest
the longest running now CEO.
I think Vince has him beat on that.
No, he's saying active. That's what.
Vince was active for over 40 years.
No. Vince is no longer active, though.
True.
That's what that tweet was about. Making sure there's nothing else we did. What's your opinion on the boys in Dalton Castle winning the tag titles? Or the 6-man belts?
I don't know who they are, really.
Well, Dalton, you've seen him a couple times on Dynamite. He was the one that comes out with that peacock outfit.
Oh.
And he had that world title match against Jonathan that one night.
Okay. So I know who you're talking about. I really wasn't expecting his boys to win.
I think the reason they did is I think Tony can get them, all 3 of them, back when he wants them. What used to be Tony Blanchard's Enterprise, they are the next champions.
Which, by the way, apparently Tully Blanchard has called it a day.
apparently something to do with his prison ministry.
Didn't know he had one.
I didn't either.
This was something I meant to bring up. I do have a little.
Trying to see if there's any AEW news we need to address beforehand. Oh, so Canada debut has been announced
Yes.
for, I think they said October in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Give your quick thoughts on that.
It's a bold move.
It's overdue. I think it would have been done in 2020, to be honest.
I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, they would have probably have done it a lot sooner.
I don't think it's so bold as you calling it, because they are pretty big in Canada. They are actually better, more high rated than WWE is in
You
Canada.
almost spilled your pump everywhere.
It wouldn't be the first time. I see Omega headlining that night. Oh, speaking of headline, FTR is teasing the return of CM Punk for this tournament, for the Trios Championships. That could give it a new twist.
It would make sense because before Punk, unfortunately, did get injured,
They were beginning to form.
they were beginning.
They
to
actually
form.
had a name and everything for their team. I don't remember what it is now. But they had a name. So, I know we went on record saying Omega and the Bucks, but could you see a twist?
Hey, it's AEW. Anything can happen.
Well,
We've seen.
I'm
it.
not changing my opinion, but we have seen Tony Khan when the expected booking is there. He does a southpaw, so to speak, out of nowhere.
I mean, look at this Jericho and Kingston feud. Everyone thought Kingston was going to win the barbed wire thing and Bob.
But it made more sense for Jericho to win that.
It did not.
Yeah, it did. Before AEW, who really knew who Eddie Kingston was, unless you was a diehard fan?
Jim Cornette.
I said, unless you was a diehard fan.
Little to nobody.
So it did make a lot of sense, especially for
Could you see? I hate to say this, but watch us be both wrong, and have it be three of the Jericho Appreciation Society.
It's going to be one of the big groups. I would say Team Taz, but I think Team Taz is no more.
Oh, speaking of which, what were your thoughts of Hobbs attacking Starks?
He didn't attack him.
He did?
It was an open challenge. He came out. He turned his back like he did for all his matches to Bell Ring, and then he had a match.
No, Hook tapped him out.
But he did not attack him. It was a face-to-face match.
I'm talking after the match.
That was a Hook that did that.
I know it wasn't Hook.
You just said Hook.
Hook came out
For the match.
for the match. Then after the match,
He got attacked by Powerhouse.
yes.
That's why I said I don't know how much of Team Taz is left.
Well, Taz hasn't been doing anything.
Well, Taz is backing Stokes. If you would have
Did
heard,
that sound like a babyface promo to you, though? After Starks won?
you mean after Hook won?
Yeah, after Hook won.
And I think, well, Taz has been focusing a lot more on his commentating duties than Team Taz. You can still see his Team Taz personality. And then Hook had been focusing on his somewhat tag team with,
Danhausen.
which is a comic gimmick.
I don't understand.
It's a comic serious guy. So I don't know what
I don't understand Danhausen.
I expected Hook to turn on him during that match that they first announced they were teaming together. It never happened. Danhausen is a Ring of Honor guy. So
Well, I know Danhausen is a Ring of
he
Honor
is
guy, but I don't...
He is one of the few Ring of Honor guys that has been a consistent presence.
Okay,
Before we go to the main event.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor TV. What do you see it landing?
I could see it. Well, since AEW has 2 shows, Rampage and Dynamite, I could see. I don't see this going on YouTube.
No.
I see.
If it was going on YouTube, we will already have it.
I see this. I could see this being on TBS or TNT.
This is what I would do. I would put. Well, that wouldn't work because they moved it from TNT because of being always having to be reshuffled down certain times of the year. But I was going to say put Dynamite back on TNT. But here's what they will probably wind up. What I would like to see is go back to tradition 505 on Saturday nights on TV yet, but I don't see that happening. The rumor I'm hearing, TV-wise, is True TV, which is owned by the same people.
Okay.
I've heard that one.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is when they do get a TV deal, they better make sure they have a good time slot. And I think that's
not necessarily.
I think that's the reason why Rampage is doing so poorly. They don't have a good time slot.
Yeah, but for the time being, just getting on TV would be what they need.
Sure.
Because throughout the history of Ring of Honor, it's never really had a good TV deal. Never.
True.
It was on Destination America after Impact for 1 year. It was on... Well, I don't even remember what it was on. It was on something when Ric Flair and Jim Cornette was booking it for a while. Ric Flair was there for a cup of coffee and then left.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2009. And then you had it all over these markets that owned them. The Simcast Broadcasting had them all over the place.
Well, MLW is in the same boat as well. They need a better TV deal.
I agree, and I think they got something up their sleeve that's supposed to be announced. Just don't know when. But so they really haven't. So whatever they get, if it's easy to view nationwide, will be a bonus.
Okay.
I'm not quite done now.
All right.
And then we will get to, unless you got something else you want.
I got two more things.
So whatever they announce, I think it's going to be a bonus. So the buy rates have been revealed. The early buy rates for Death Before Dishonor. So
I'm going to say 50,000 or more.
Not quite. So Super Card of Honor brought in just over 17,000 buys. Not counting about the live gate or anything. Death Before Dishonor just about double that.
Mm-hmm.
They had roughly 30,000 to 35,000 buys. However, for Ring of Honor, that's just about one of their top 4. I can continue to see them, as they are building the card better, I can see that going up. Especially if they continue to book the pay-per-view like the last 2 have been booked.
All right.
What's your next topic?
Let's talk about Ric Flair.
Oh boy. I'm conflicted. Do I buy it for the other matches? Or do I wait and see?
I don't even understand how this can even happen.
We got MLW versus Impact. We have...
I'm not talking about that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the whole Jim Crockett thing.
But
I don't understand.
Well, here's something else. The trademark had been lapsed. Thompson, the one that's producing this, has the trademark for Jim Crockett Promotions. He's supposedly going to be handing it over to David Crockett after this event.
Okay. In my opinion, I think Rick, after his match with Shawn at 24, should have called it. Even Taker didn't get that kind of send-off.
Oh yeah, he did, but not as
as big. He didn't have everybody coming out after after Raw. You didn't have Taker kneeling down and actually crying.
Exactly.
And Rick literally trying to...
Does that last match on Impact have a sour taste in his mouth to the point he has to get rid of it?
But he's not the Jeff Lyon. He's not the Jeff Lyon.
I agree.
He's stealing, wheeling, dealing.
I just remember seeing him and Hogan, two guys that could not go no more, in 2010. Is that what is bringing Flair to come? One more match? I don't know. I
don't want to see Ric Flair end up like Terry Funk.
I'm worried about this match.
He's already injured. He has a bum.
How much of it is he going to get physical though?
And Jeff Jarrett's going to be one busy man now that I think about it.
Tonight and tomorrow. So and it's both in Tennessee, so Jeff won't have to travel. It's both in Nashville for that matter. How physical will he get in this match? It's a tag team match.
If they're smart, keep it limited like they did with Del Torborg when TNA brought the Red Sox in.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they booked a tag match just to play it by ear, and if it looks
maybe he tags his partner in, puts the figure 4 on Jeff, and Jeff taps out to it.
Or maybe they see how the match plays out. If everything goes good, they keep him in. If it starts to go sour, then they will tag him out and let him do the finishing blow when it's time.
But if Rick still thinks he can go, I'm sorry, but he can't.
I just hope this is the one-off, and it really is his last match.
I mean,
I know you said you had 2 items. I want to touch on this Jim Crockett Promotions.
How long has the trademark been lapsed?
I don't know, but he got it, and he's going to apparently...
Because I would think that since
But
Vince
you have to keep the trademarks up.
Well, yeah, but since Vince bought WCW, that would have 50% of Jim Crockett, and the other half would go to the
But
NWA.
you have to keep your trademarks. Think about this. Remember back when Cody was doing all these old WCW trademarks?
Yes. Some he was able to get, and some he wasn't.
And no, he had more than what he winded up keeping. But he sold a couple of them off to Vince. Vince wanted War Games, the full name. Well, Triple H wanted it. He sold that off. No, that was MLW, but still.
Mm-hmm.
The Bash at the Beach. AEW actually ran one.
Uh-huh.
And Vince bought it back. But, I want to touch on this Jim Crockett Promotions.
Well, wait, you said that they had like a little revival in like 2000 to
late
2000.
99, early 2000, yes. And here's the thing. With David Crockett going to be handed back the trademark at the end of this event, could you see Billy Coleman trying to buy that trademark?
And I could also see David Crockett Jr.
just handing it to him?
Either handing it to him or rejecting because he wants to run shows. I could also see that. But
you're talking about having 2 NWAs running around again?
Hey, there was an NWA in every territory.
Who's to say that Billy Coleman and him ain't already talking about this?
All right.
Okay, what's your second thought before
I meant to bring this up last week, but it just slipped my mind. And I know it's a delicate subject to this day. Let's talk about Jordynne Grace and what she had to say. Yeah, I know it's a sore subject, but my opinion is she's wrong.
What did she really say? I haven't been...
She said that Benoit, if he was still around today, wouldn't be able to hang with today's guys because he wouldn't be able to remember matches. And she also went on record and tweeted out another thing.
Okay, yeah. I know what.
Yeah.
It is.
Like I said, it's still a sore subject to this day.
I'm not going to talk about what might have happened in his last 24 hours. But I'm going to talk about the man that was his gimmick.
Well, he was one of the greatest technical wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots.
That's why I'm not going to talk about what he may have done, what he did do, what he didn't do. That's speculation at best.
Yes.
But I will talk about the man that is Chris Benoit, the wrestler.
And I can still watch a Chris Benoit match.
The world champion, yes. So can I. Would he be able to hang with today's society?
I think he would.
As professional wrestling.
I think he would.
There's only a handful of people right now that might be able to beat him in a fair shoot.
Because here's the thing. Benoit came up he came up during the territories. He worked for Stu. He worked for everyone around, and he was able to read the room like so many others. And that's something that, unfortunately, because everything nowadays is so scripted out, you can't do anymore.
Well, the sad thing is, if so much information would have been known about concussions, and
then it probably would have never happened.
And would have been known about head trauma, head injuries.
Yes.
WWE would have banned that headbutt. We know that.
Well, even Harley Race went on record and said that he regrets even inventing the move.
Yeah. But she shouldn't have said it.
Well,
and I'm going to leave it at that, just for the simple fact, it costs 3 lives.
Yes.
We know that. Do we know exactly how? Nobody does.
No. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say one other thing, and I'm just gonna leave it. I saw something what Paul Heyman said when he was working with Inside the Ropes. I think it was a couple of years back. Somebody was heckling him about Benoit, and he goes, "Why? You can admire his work all you want, but here's my take on it. 3 people died in that house that weekend, and only one had the choice." Which makes a lot of sense. Now for Jordynne Grace to say, "May he burn in hell," we don't know what was going on in his head. We don't know. We're not judges. We're not supposed to be.
And that's why I was that's why I was giving you the stop signal. It's not our job to judge. That's why God is around.
I mean, yes, you can look at Benoit.
Jesus and God is going to be our judge.
Yes.
We can not approve what he did, and by God, none of us does.
And none of us are taking up for Benoit when we say that he's one of the greatest, but we're not.
But do what Paul Heyman says. If anyone has the right to say anything, it's Paul Heyman. He's been around this industry for as long as I've been alive. Remember the guy that was inside that ring. Don't remember what might have or might not have happened outside that last 24 hours of his life.
He also did say that he said, as a performer, one of the greatest people I ever watched. As a human being, I can't look at him the same.
No, none of us can.
None of us can.
I mean, if he really killed his wife and killed his son,
and then killed himself,
because we wasn't in that room, we don't know what might have happened.
Nobody was. But the media didn't make it any better either.
No. I mean, we can speculate what happened, what it looks like happened. But at the end of the day, there's only 1, 2, 3 people on the earth at that point.
And they're all dead.
Of course, God, he knows exactly what happened.
And for people who say they can't watch a Chris Benoit match, I can understand where they're coming from. But for me, it's like, I'm watching one of the greatest people to ever lace up a pair of boots. I am not.
Then you might as well get rid of all Nitro. He's on quite a few of them. Might well get rid of from early 2000 to
You might as well
2005.
You might as well just
Monday Night Raw, SmackDown.
You might as well just
Forget watching anything old.
Just erase the ending of WrestleMania 20, which everyone says to this day is one of the greatest endings ever.
So,
when Eddie and Benoit.
I think we've been on this subject long enough.
And I'm starting to get heated. Let's move on.
Okay, so let's go to what was a bombshell this week.
Nobody saw this coming.
In our main event.
Nobody saw this coming.
Vince McMahon has officially retired. And Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan is your co-CEO. Chairwoman is Stephanie McMahon.
And Triple H is the head of creative.
Booking as head of
and
creative.
He is basically getting rid of everyone that his father-in-law saw as good.
So, let's start with Vince McMahon.
I don't think if it was for everything that's coming out right now, he would have ever retired.
Probably. I was trying to find some way to not agree with that, but I can't. I think that's exactly what happened.
And I think, I honestly think it took, even though Vince can't vote himself out, I think the board came to a unanimous decision.
And the board was put in place when they went public.
Yes.
And that board does have more control if it's a union combined vote. They can remove people.
Now, what Vince said on Twitter is that almost sounded like a PR move.
At first, I was wondering how they could have two co-CEOs, one being family, one being non-family.
And we've never had a chairwoman.
No, because it's
in the history of professional wrestling.
Well, not in WWE, because it's always been Vince. So, we have Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon with joint. And at first it was like, why didn't Stephanie just get this fully? What in the world is going on? I think the board did this by design.
And
I think the board has been so fed up with Vince McMahon, they wanted to say. I think Nick Khan is on a trial basis, even though it wasn't written that way, to see how well they do. And if Stephanie can prove her worth to the board, eventually she will probably have full control. But they wanted to make sure they had something in play to make all the investors happy.
Well, we were also talking, how's Bruce and everybody going to react? Because they're Vince's boys, and we got our answer.
Some of them's already left, and some of them's going to continue to leave.
And Kevin Dunn, who has worked there ever since like 1984 or something like that.
It's rumored to be going out.
Even Brock, they had to strike a deal with him to get him back to SmackDown, because Brock is like, he's leaving, I'm leaving.
I don't know exactly the details in the back, but they was able to get him walked out even before the end of the show. But they did have a consistency plan in place. I don't know what that is. We may never know.
Now, what do you think this means for WWE programming going forward?
It's going to take about a year. I know everyone is saying, I've listened to some YouTube channels that go, oh, Happy Days are here. We'll finally...
But it's not going to change overnight.
It can't change overnight. Most of the plans you're going to see play out at SummerSlam probably was already stripped in. It's probably the same way for this coming Monday. Now, after we get past Monday, you're going to start seeing little hints of Triple H.
Now, could you see a more prominent lost the word. Prominent feature of tag team wrestling, because we know that was one of Vince's quirks, is that he didn't think tag team wrestling would sold. But we're talking Triple H, and Triple H knows the business.
I think so. And I could also see something that has never happened in WWE happen.
A tag team main eventing
Oh, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking.
Okay, you're gonna have to talk for a while because I have to go to the bathroom.
Where you going? Oh, okay.
The laundromat.
And before you go,
Yeah.
this is what we can touch on when you get back.
Okay.
Big E, we're talking about maybe now that Vince is no longer in charge, a 6-man tag belt.
All right, I'll be thinking on it.
And yeah, it's gonna take at least 6 months to. I really don't want to touch too much on the WWE scenario, so what? Let's talk about NWA while he's running to the laundromat behind us. Well, sitting at the church parking lot, but no one's here yet, so he couldn't go inside. They announced Tuesday that we're creating a TB Women's Championship. My feel is that with only an hour and a half, they are getting too many titles. We have the World Championship naturally. We have the National Championship. We have the TV Championship. The Junior Championship. The tag titles. The women and the women tag. There's 7. They have just announced the relaunch of the United States Tag Team title, which I actually like. I wish they would get rid of the national title, though, and bring back the U.S. title. That way they have both belts, like they did back in late 80s, early 90s, but that's just me. And then they'll bring in the women's TV title. They have an hour of power and 30 minutes of NWA USA. YouTube. So there would be nothing stopping them adding more time. But I do think they need to add more time if they want that many titles. Where does it stop? When is enough when it comes to champions? I like the idea of a secondary women's title, but maybe you get rid of one of the men's belts. Because honestly, right now, there is way too many titles. Nifty.
What up?
Nifty. What are you doing?
Here for the men's breakfast. Small fellowship.
When do you get that?
Work?
Oh, that's a work van.
Yeah.
Ah. Cool. I'm waiting on Chris to get back so I can finish the video.
Where's that?
He hasn't got here yet.
What, Chris got here already? Or
He's with me.
where is he at?
Laundromat.
Bathroom?
Yep. Okay, so my concern is that honestly, the Junior Championship would be the only one that makes sense to get rid of. But the Junior Championship also, they just need more time, I think. They just need more time. I mean, back in the old NWA, they did have a lot of belts. Just, I don't know if it worked in today's monotone society. And now we can get back on topic.
What were you talking about?
I was touching on a bit of different NWA news because I didn't really want to talk too much about what we were talking about.
All right.
So we were moving on to the fact that I'm going to get off my too many title rampage here. But there is a bit of NWA news, so this won't be our main event that we're talking. Or unless you want to talk about the NWA news I have first. And then get back to the big...
Let's talk about the NWA, then get...
So, Billy Coleman was asked if he could see the NWA getting a TV deal.
I could definitely see it.
and an actual TV deal. And he goes, them conversations I've already been having. He didn't say with who. He said when Tony Khan got that big monumental TV deal back in 2019, that changed the conversations I was having. Mm-hmm. I was basically getting, well, we really don't want wrestling on our network, blah, blah, blah. He goes, now, it's like, well, we just got to figure out what will fit for us all. So it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of when. Okay, let's jump back to Ring of Honor for just 1 second.
Okay.
I was thinking about this, and I think this is probably something we're going to see become a reality.
All right.
After they get their TV deal, could you see it like a Ring of Honor Dark?
I could see it.
Like an hour episode of Dark each week, like they did with AEW Dark to begin with.
Yeah.
And it kind of helps the younger talent get some matches under the belts.
Mm-hmm.
And now they actually have an actual bonafide story that takes place. So we were talking about Triple H Creative. And
from what I read, Triple H is looking to bring NXT back to
somewhat of his vision.
Yeah.
It's going to take at least 6 months to see a big improvement, I think. But the match concepts is going to get better. The tag team wrestling I can see get better. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen.
Yes.
Now, back to the cliffhanger I left you with before you left.
Okay.
Big E was talking about a potential 6-man tag. Could you see Triple H pulling the trigger on something like that?
I could, but they would have to have a lot more. Well, they have Sheamus, Holland, and...
Oh, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
It's not going to happen anytime soon.
And Big E would be a big component whether or not he can ever return. But he would be a good...
Well,
the New Day would be good for that.
Well, I have a question for you. And I got thinking about this last night. Do you think the scripted promos will go away?
Depends. They may just tell them, we need you to get this point across and let them go. But then again, they would have to change how they do the class, NXT class. You're going to see a difference in how they're going to be doing the NXT stuff. You're going to definitely see probably the promos start being one of the key components.
Well, also remember when Triple H was running NXT, we had one of the best tag team matches in the Revival versus the Undisputed Era, which, speaking of which, that will be very interesting when Cole and everyone else's contracts come up.
Yeah, but Tony Khan made a point to address some of them issues. Because he goes, I thought it was funny how just because a new management took over, that some of my top guys was just going to up and leave. He goes, for your guys' information, they're under a 5-year contract. They can't go anywhere for 5 years.
Hasn't stopped anyone.
That was before there was such a big issue on contracts. Nowadays, when you are locked into a contract, you're locked in. It's not like it was in the 90s where you can just jump without being sued.
True.
So, yeah, Tony did take exceptions to that. And like he said, he goes, who knows where we're at in 5 years?
True.
Does Adam Cole still wrestle after 5 years? He's been around this business for some time.
Well, so has Bobby Fish.
That's my point.
I think Fish has been around longer than Cole.
Does WWE and AEW have a completely different outlook in 5 years?
Do they start working together in 5 years?
And that's the key component here. Now that Triple H is running things,
and we know
it's not going to happen overnight.
And we know Triple H is.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But Could it happen? Now that Vince is not running the show, could it happen?
But do you think Triple H's father-in-law is actually just not going to say anything, like at family dinners or?
Oh, he may say something, but it's not his control. Oh, then again, the McMahons may have a rule in place. Family get-togethers is not business.
So do you think Shane is in, or do you think he's out?
He's out. He was fired by Vince himself before any of this took.
Oh yeah, he was fired after the Rumble.
And this was a legit firing. Could he be brought back?
I don't think so, because according to what we understand, Triple H and Shane cannot work together to save their lives.
But at the end of the day, it's family. If he really was that desperate for work, he would have to work his way back up, though.
Yeah.
There's no way they would give him a position of power.
Do you think Vince just got tired of Shane throwing his ideas around and?
I think he got tired of being Shane throwing a fit about everything.
And he just goes, "Darn it, Shane, go home."
But here's the thing: Shane's oldest just graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Could we be about ready to see the next generation of McMahons?
Well, you said that Stephanie's daughter or Vince's granddaughter
Yep.
wanted Grandpa's job or something like that.
Yep. Could this be already in the works?
But I was also thinking about this with everything that Triple H is going through, especially with his heart condition and everything like that. Do you think that he'll be able to get into the swing of things?
Oh, he was in the swing of things. He was already back.
And do you think Triple H got upset when his father-in-law started taking every bit of power away from him?
I can see both sides. I can see where Vince was trying to do it to protect Triple H because of his health. But I can also see Triple H feels like he was being... But now that really doesn't mean much.
And what do you think, at the end of the day, what do you think Vince's legacy is going to be? There is a side of the coin that you can say that he helped wrestling, and then there's another side of the coin.
He brought wrestling to a national audience, not just a regional audience. He brought it to a national audience. Well, you popped on a TV, don't matter where you are, you got it and watched it. But he can also take credit for killing
The
territories. He brought wrestling to the mainstream. That was good for business. What was not so good for business was killing off every territory and buying them off and not doing anything with them.
Well, and
I wish, and this is going to sound so wrong to a lot of people, I wish Vince would have stepped down maybe even 15 years ago.
well, do you think that there's a potential for Punk to come back now that Vince?
He's already shut that down.
Oh, he's already.
Oh, he said just because someone else is running it, nothing's going to change there. Oh, he's already shut that down in a second.
Oh, I would disagree with Punk on that.
I would have to disagree with that.
On that regard.
I wish this would have happened 15 years ago, and the reason I say that is 15 years ago we had the rebrand of ECW going. We could have possibly got the rebrand of WCW at that point if Triple H would have been running things.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it is now too late for a relaunch of WCW. Now, they can bring back a WCW, but it will be nothing like it is. 20, let's see, what year are we? 2022, yeah.
Yeah.
22 years ago, 21 years ago, WCW folded.
Uh-huh. That same year, ECW folded.
I think it's too far out now.
Well, wait, they have Starrcade, and they have Starrcade as a house show. They use War Games.
Could you see? That was one thing I want to mention. You just mentioned it. Could the War Games make its debut on one of the main rosters? Now that the game who brought War Games in is running things.
I could see it.
Think about this. And it books itself. They did it all women's last year. Was it last year or a year before?
Last year.
They did the men's traditional.
Mm-hmm.
What about Survivor Series?
That.
Raw, SmackDown, or even go one better and say we're gonna do what WCW did in '98 at 3-team War Games.
I could see it.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT, but make sure the winner, the one that gets the pinfall, gets some sort of reward. Championship of their choosing. Match. Put a pot like $10,000 for the winner, or split $100,000 for the winning team. Something. Make it worthwhile. Don't just put brand versus brand just to be doing brand versus brand. Could it happen this Survivor Series? I think it's too soon. But could it happen at the end of next year? I think it's definitely a possibility.
Do you think we could see the Judgment Day go into a completely different direction since Triple H is now in full control?
Well, Edge was supposed to have been on last Monday's Raw, but because of the new direction everything's going, Triple H held off his return. It's not scrapped.
It's just held
He
up.
wants to get through SummerSlam and then gradually put his storylines in place.
Do you think we could also see a Bray Wyatt return?
Oh, I'd say it's definitely possible. I could see Bray Wyatt returning. I could see a lot of the guys that Triple H was mad about that's not currently under contract returning.
Well, we know this much. Triple H was a Samoa Joe guy, and that's why when Vince fired him the first time, Triple H is like, "Are you out of your mind? Get him back here."
He got him back until he lost power.
It's going to be very interesting.
Joe might be one, once he drops the TV title, that Triple H might try to buy out of his contract.
What do you think about Sanjay Dutt returning to the ring?
It's a one-time off, I think. But then again, if you get the bug, that gives you 3 guys. But here's the thing, if they just put him in trios matches most of the time, he doesn't even have to do much. He has a 7-footer on his side.
Do you also think that Bruce and Kevin were upset that Vince was outed by the board?
Oh, you know they was, because they was always the yes man. Vince say something, they didn't argue, they just did.
And now with Triple H, it's like you're not going to be able to kiss my behind like you did my father.
I want, real quick, your final thoughts on WWE this week.
I didn't really watch any programming. I will say it was shocking.
You deserve that one. Even
I do.
was watching. Even
I
I watched this week. Come on.
Hey, I wasn't going to sit through 3 hours of sludge just
So
to...
there's also a rumor that Triple H is trying to find the best way of downgrading that to 2 hours without it being such a shock. But it will probably won't be able
Well,
to...
they would have to get permission from the network to do so.
It won't. That's what I was saying. It probably won't be able to happen till the new contract takes. Or could we see maybe the relaunch of the Cruiserweight division with Triple H running things to help fill that final hour? I noticed something on this week's television.
What?
There was another 24/7 chaos.
Oh, there what? Oh, there wasn't.
Is that title dead now?
Hopefully, because it sucked to begin with.
Get rid of that belt and bring in the Cruiserweights. Final thought.
Or Big Gold Belt. Could that be making a return?
Oh.
The World Championship.
Please. Bring back the
I know you're a lover of that belt.
bring back that belt for one of the show. Bring back the Wing Eagle for the other show, and get rid of the nuts that we got now.
But does this change plans for WrestleMania as well?
Let's see. This is August.
Uh-huh.
Well, soon to be August.
Uh-huh.
August, September, October, November, December, January. You may start seeing the implements at the Rumble itself. The winners of the Rumble could be all Triple H. Final thoughts on AEW this week with the Trios Championship and the Canadian debut.
AEW wasn't really that shocking. I was more shocked by the whole Vince McMahon retiring than I was.
Was the Trios and the Canada debut just a way to do something to still be talked about this week when everything else was being talked about?
Yeah.
Things?
I think so, and I also think that's...
I don't know about the Trios Championship because I honestly did see them coming that all out. Did he jump the gun and announce them a week or two before he had planned? And the week he announced he was going to have his first match is my thing. I think he was going to announce them the beginning of the tournament that night.
Uh-huh.
And then have the tournament.
But once Omega got injured, he's like, got to hold off.
And that delayed that by months. But I think they were going to plan on having them belts debut at this All Out once he knew Omega was close.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he doesn't have to say, oh boy, and Omega.
But does this make AEW step up their game now?
It's going to make both companies step up. You know it.
Because
Is AEW in jeopardy going out of business? Absolutely not.
Is WWE? Absolutely not. But does this also save the McMahons' marriage?
It's not even a marriage to save at this point.
I mean, Linda's down in Florida. McMahon is up in Connecticut.
How much can you expect one woman to put up with, though?
I don't know. The amount of times he's cheated on her, I'm surprised she's still with him.
But is she with him? You just said it. She's in Florida. He's in Connecticut. And Linda refused to comment.
Oh, she did?
Mm-hmm. I'm getting close to the hour mark. I don't like having videos longer than that. I got about 2.5 minutes.
Well, it's going to be very interesting nonetheless. I'm Hardcore Christopher.
Hang on. I'm not quite to that point yet.
Okay.
I will say this. This week of wrestling was nothing if not entertaining. And I also like the Trios Championship. The design is cool. I was expecting something identical to the tag belts. We did not get that, and I'm kind of happy about that. We got a different design. They need to do something with this All Atlantis Championship. If they want to make it a legit championship, then...
It's a do-nothing championship.
It needs to have more time on the actual show. And yes, it's good having them defend that belt on other company, but we need it home as well. The Trios Championship, I'm going to stick with Omega and the Bucks.
I'm going to stick with Omega and the Bucks.
But I can see the Blackpool Comeback also walking out with that.
Oh, yeah, we forgot about them.
Oh, I didn't forget about it.
I forgot.
With that being said,
I'm Hardcore Christopher. He's Hardcore Wrestling 101. Keep it cheery, everyone.
yeah, let's get out of 2022.
Yeah.
Adios.